The STEM Learning Ecosystems Initiative fosters collaboration among those working to remove barriers to the access of STEM education for all students.
So what we have recognized over a number of decades of work is that if you're really going to be serious about equity and access and opportunity, that the kind of infrastructure has to be in place in which education is the responsibility of the entire community, not just the education system itself. So if you look at communities, they're made up of lots of different constituency groups. And if you look at the STEM part of that connects to workforce, that is part of an economic driver for a community, you find it's as much about the post-secondary community, universities and community colleges, and nonprofits that are STEM rich, like zoos and museums. And it's also about the Girl Scouts. It's about what goes on in K-12 or PK-12 and so on. When you look closer and you see those thriving communities that do a beautiful job of actually supporting their children and the teaching and learning and structure the workforce for economic development, and you look closely, you find that there's an incredible level of collaboration and empowerment. And that's ecosystem behavior. That's interdependence. That's everybody finishing everybody else's sentences and understanding their roles and responsibilities. That's equity, because it doesn't slice off certain neighborhoods or zip codes. What it does is make access equitable across. And that's why the Ecosystem Project was born.
These ecosystems bring together educators, policymakers, industry leaders, and community organizations to support STEM learning opportunities, particularly for students in underrepresented and underserved communities.
Originally, when we designated science, technology, engineering, and math as a transdisciplinary endeavor, we created STEM schools because we weren't really sure what that looked like and how to teach those and what did learning look like for the students. And so in Cleveland, Ohio, there was a new STEM school that was developed that was really a public-private partnership. And that first class of students, the founding students in that, were everybody's child in Cleveland. And Cleveland is predominantly a Title I eligible community, almost 100%. And there was a young man who really found his way through 3 buses to that school and had found the school that year that it launched. And there was GE and Smart Lighting that was supporting it. It was Rockwell Automation. He got internships. He got all kinds of things in and out of school. He learned how to study. He learned what mathematics was, and he learned that his interest really had to have competencies. But it was all of that community that helped him. And over the 4 years of being in high school, he developed all kinds of capability that he wouldn't have had if it weren't for the ecosystem supporting that school, and went off to Harvard and with the Gates Millennium Scholarship, first time in Northeast Ohio ever, and ended up working for Microsoft, and now is in his own business, a software startup, runs a foundation of his own, and gives back. And that's a beautiful success story. And there are many, many of these all across our country.
Jan Morrison was a STEM educator for 35 years and is now the founder and CEO of TIES.
It's an organization that is actually 20 years old this year. And we are, I have spent a lot of my time cultivating and creating TIES. But prior to TIES, I was an educator, a STEM educator, in fact, for 35 years in all kinds of schools and from 4th grade up, and actually being heading schools and principal and lots of jobs with kids.
TIES is a national initiative that supports the development and growth of these ecosystems, which is the backbone organization that aims to address equity issues and ensure that all students, regardless of their background or socioeconomic status, have access to high-quality STEM education.
Our tagline has always been helping children to make sense of the world. And so what we're very keen on is that there's a quality STEM education out there for every child, and that actually STEM education is a right of every child. We feel that the kind of systems that need to be in place in order to support that are our mission. We're designers, we're co-creators, and in the end, we create the kind of infrastructure that supports exactly what is needed to help those children to make sense of the world.
It provides resources, tools, and assistance to help communities establish and sustain STEM learning ecosystems.
If we're going to do the work and we're going to spend our time and our energy and our lives, it really has to penetrate to the kids. And in doing that, it's really a joy. And that's what inspires me. There's never a time that I don't see a child, no matter what age. You know, they could be graduating, they could be just entering into school, or just sitting on somebody's lap, that you don't learn something if you spend the time. And that, what I'm particularly interested in always remembering is the 4-year-olds who always ask why. You know, they're constantly, you know, they bug everybody, and oftentimes we wish they wouldn't. But in the reality of it is, we have to cherish that, because that why and that energy and that view of the world is what gets us the innovations and makes us better at what we do.
TIES works with local partners to implement strategies and create systemic change to ensure more equitable access.
We can have glorious goals. We can have 40,000-foot aspirations. But in the end, you have to sweat the details. You have to know what it looks like in a child's life, or in teaching and learning, or in a community's life on a daily basis. So that means that we attend each other's meetings, that we provide support for each other. When there are opportunities, it doesn't stay with one group. It is then enabled. And let me give you an example of that. The Office of Naval Research few years ago really had never given Northeast Ohio a grant. And yet we have the capability. We have somebody who works for us who was part of the Navy at one point and knew how to do this. And we were developing a new aerospace and maritime school. And if you bring all those people together in that ecosystem from the ground up, a grant was provided. And therefore, that school was really launched with magnificent capability in digital fabrication, in understanding maritime from the Navy up, and in real ways. And that's really sweating the details as together.
Overall, the goal of STEM learning ecosystems is to create a more coordinated and effective approach to STEM education that prepares students for success in college, career, and life.